Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to a new video, and today I'm doing a recap of the albums I listened to in March. And I gotta say, this was a month where I listened to many great albums, but there's a lot to cover, so let's do this. First one was Section 80 by Kendrick Lamar. And it was fine. Of course it now suffers because it has two masterpieces as Good Kid Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly in the same discography. This record is simply not in that league, and it's a shame because many people will forget about it, when it's actually quite a good debut album. Kendrick had such a defined style and sound. He had already found himself even before releasing his first album. How amazing is that? I enjoyed it. I think every song on it was at least fun. Of course it's not as good as Kendrick's later records were, but this was a promising album to start a career with, for sure, and my favorite song on it was probably High Power, yeah. Next, Who Cares by Rex Orange County, and I didn't know he was going to release an album, so I was surprised when I saw that this one was released, and I enjoyed it. It had enough good songs to call it a good listen. One in a Million, Shut Me Down, Who Cares, Open a Window. Actually, I love Tyler's feature in Open a Window. Whenever these two work together, they end up doing great stuff. Sure, this record had some songs I'm kinda neutral about, but for the most part I like it. It's a really nice album, one of those you listen when you just wanna chill. Maybe drink a coffee and listen to it on a rainy afternoon. That's how I listened to it, and I had a great time. I really like Rex Orange County's music. I think you should check it, it's worth a listen. Next one was Circles by Mac Miller. And I love this record so much. I love when I'm excited to listen to an album and it ends up being great. This was one of those cases. This album really connected with me. I had never listened to anything by Mac Miller before, so I had no idea what to expect from it. But this record was a wonderful listen. I loved it. I actually loved almost every song on this record. I fell in love with it instantly. It's such a pleasant record to listen to, even when the lyrics on it are sometimes really sad. Mac Miller's performances on this record were so good, and I find impressive the fact that it was finished after his passing. I don't know how much was there missing, but this record feels very complete. There are some moments where you can kinda tell they had to finish some holes, but in general it doesn't feel unfinished at all. I think that's impressive. The way this record ended up being. It's impressive taking into account sadly he wasn't there. John Bryan, the guy who produced it, did a great job. And I'm glad they didn't rush this record, cause it was released a year and 3 months after his passing. So it makes me think they really wanted to deliver this record in the way Mac had envisioned it, respecting Mac's memory and also giving time for his family to heal, and I gotta tip my hat to that. This record was fantastic. I listened to it again right after my first listen, and I can say I'm in love with it. Some of my favorite songs on it were Circles, Complicated, Woods, but my favorite one was Good News. That one hit hard. Rest in peace, Mac. Next one was Orchid by Opeth. I don't think I've said this in the channel before, but I don't really like listening to metal albums as much because of how repetitive they tend to be. Of course there's many I love, and that's not the rule for every metal album. But if there's a metal band, which albums I love listening to, that's gotta be Opeth. So I finally decided to give a listen to Orchid, their debut album. It took me a long time to do it cause it's an hour and 11 minutes long. But I can confirm that from Orchid to Ghost Reveries, they didn't know what making a bad album was. All those records were incredible. This was the case too. I absolutely loved Orchid. It has quite a different sound compared to other Opeth albums. Guitars and drums sound way more raw than in any other. Plus Michael's vocals were not as growly yet. Put that together and you end up having one of the most unique sounding listens in their discography. They were young, having fun, and discovering themselves. But surprisingly sounded amazing together and very developed already. You won't see them as raw and intimate anywhere else. An important thing this record does different are the acoustic and clean parts, because for example in Ghost Reveries, those parts have a choir style vibe that makes them magical. Guitars have effects, they're harmonizing each other, there's synths and many vocals too. Definitely not a bad thing, it's amazing. But in this record they're way simpler, way more acoustic. For me it feels a little more intimate, as I said. A good example of that is the Twilight Is My Robe. I don't remember clean parts being like that in any other Opeth album, and certainly this record has more than any other. There's songs that are even entirely acoustic. Requiem or Silhouette I wasn't expecting a full piano song on an Opeth album, but it was jaw-dropping. Amazing album. I definitely found some of my favorite moments on their career here. And you know, I really like the cover of it. It really represents the way this record sounds. I'll try to listen to Morning Rise one of these days though. It's the only one I'm missing from their death metal days. And well, my favorite song on it was The Twilight Is My Robe. Next one was Swimming by Mac Miller. Circles made me want to check more of his stuff, so I came here. And also really like this album, since the very first song, cause Come Back to Earth became one of my favorite songs by him. I also liked Hurt Feelings, but what they use, what a good song that is. The bass is simply delicious. Add the drums and you have a beat and groove that makes my head bang for 5 minutes straight. Plus Mac did a great performance on it, and the synths, phew. The thing is, there are some songs I barely enjoyed here. I can perfectly listen to them, but they dance in a line between barely liking them and not liking them at all. But Swimming was a good listen too. There were many really good songs. I'll keep listening to it, so because of that I think it was a good album. My favorite song on it was Come Back to Earth. Yeah, definitely. Next one, Uno by Malpaís. I had never listened to an album by a Costa Rican band or artist before. This is the first one, and I decided to give a listen to it because my friend Luis D played the song Abril while we were talking on Discord some days ago. Right there I fell in love with it. The guitars were gorgeous and the vocals were beautiful. Such a warm song. It's one of those that make you feel like you're getting hugged by the music. That chorus with the piano in the back is tear-inducing. It has given me chills every time I've listened to it. Magnificent song. Please check it. I know you'll love it. I enjoyed this record. There were a couple moments I didn't like, but in general it was a great listen. I'm glad this was the first national album I listened to, cause it was so nice, honestly. It's warm, joyful, melancholic from time to time. It incorporates many elements from different genres, but they are all put together under the style and sound they're playing. And I really appreciate that. It makes the listening more interesting. For example, Boceto Esperanza and Malpaís have very different styles, but they share the sound of the band. I think this record has a lot of musical value. I will definitely recommend it. If you are from Costa Rica, it can help you appreciate more the great music that's made in this country, and it's sometimes forgotten. But if you're not, and especially if you're not from Latin America, this record will be something new for you. I'm very sure you've never listened to anything like it before. So yeah, really good album, and my favorite one by far, Abril. Next one, Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. First I wanna say, the cover art for this album is a very good representation of the way it sounds. I do think so, yeah. I expected this album to sound the way the cover looks like, and I listened to this album on a day I was tired and I just wanted a nice listen. So this album felt like a hug, cause it was a really pretty listen. I really like Phoebe Bridgers' voice. I think it's powerful, it has emotion, and works excellent for the style of music she makes. Plus it's nice listening to her singing, and I think there were many moments on the record that showcased that. One that stuck with me was the final part of Moonsong. I liked that one a lot, and it was one of the highlights of the record for me. Actually, the songs I liked the most on Punisher were the ones in the second half, cause after it comes Savior Complex. A song I think was excellent. The guitars were really good, but the strings made me love it. The song Graceland too. I loved the intro, but it reminded me a lot of Taylor Swift's early days, and it's not a secret that I'm a huge fan of those, so I love this song, even added to a playlist of mine. I had a good time listening to this record, will probably listen to it again, and my favorite song on it was Savior Complex. Next, Parachutes by Coldplay. Some days before the concert they did here, I decided to listen to this album, because I saw a tweet that said, I miss when Coldplay used to copy Radiohead. I wish I had taken a screenshot of it, but since I really like Jello, and I really like Radiohead, I decided to give it a shot. I never thought I would say this about a Coldplay album, even less after Music of the Spheres, but I loved this record. Honestly, I loved everything about this album. There was not a slight thing I disliked. And I really think it made me eat my words after all the fun I've made of Coldplay in my life, cause it was a great record. And surely there's a lot of Radiohead influence here, but I think they turn it into something on their own. And I actually like seeing the influences of artists in their early work, so I have no problem with that. This was Coldplay's debut album, and I gotta say it was a pretty good one. A couple of weak songs here and there, but songs like Sparks and High Speed definitely make up for it, cause they are amazing songs. Sparks has a progression I really like. It makes the verse more effective. And the way it changes for the chorus is so good. Such a pretty song. I didn't expect its ending, but I loved it. Very good record. I enjoyed it so much, and basic choice here, but my favorite song on it was Yellow. I do have some bias for that song because it's one of the couple songs I've always loved. Listening to this album made me like it even more, so it takes the crown. Next one, A Rush of Blood to the Head by Coldplay. And I also liked it. This was the record where they started to sound like Coldplay. There was quite an improvement from Parachutes, at least in the sense of making music in their own style and sound. But was the execution that good? I'd say 50-50, cause this is a good record, but some songs are not interesting to the point they're boring. A Whisper and God Put a Smile on Your Face, for example. Daylight is one I could have liked, but it gets so repetitive. Those three songs feel so plain, honestly. But I can listen to them, and the good songs on this record make up for them. Of course, The Scientist and Clocks are among them. Everybody knows them, and I think they're really good songs. Not my favorite ones though, cause those are Green Eyes, Warning Sign, and In My Place. Green Eyes is a warm, pretty song with a really nice progression in the verse, and the chorus is so catchy in a good way. I liked a lot Chris Martin on that song. Loved Warning Sign. I really loved everything about it, but that transition from the verse to the chorus is so well done. And finally, In My Place, fell in love with it instantly. The chorus is excellent. I really like this record. Not more than Parachutes, but they're really close. My favorite song on it, Warning Sign. Next one, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden. And I really like this one, which was a surprise, cause most of the times I'm not really into Maiden's records as a whole. But this one was pretty good. I hadn't given it a chance, cause I don't like the cover of it. Dumb reason, but yeah. And I think this record was pretty interesting, very different to the material in their previous records. And still to this day, I think it's a record where they experimented with their sound and what they could do with it. Keyboards, more progressive songs, riffs that didn't focus that much on the speed. It was an experiment that really paid off, and definitely an evolution from what they had previously done in Somewhere in Time. Also, this is a concept album, and first, the concept is really interesting. Second, it's executed really good. Music and lyrics really go along together to tell a story about a seventh son of a seventh son's life. It ends up being epic, beautiful from time to time, and definitely great on its entirety. I've always liked Can I Play With Madness, The Evil That Men Do, and The Clairvoyant. But in this listen, I like them more, while songs like Infinite Dreams and Only the Good Die Young really grabbed my attention. But my favorite song on it was the title track Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. That song is one of their masterpieces. Next one, Station to Station by David Bowie. I want to finish listening to Bowie's entire discography, so this was a step closer to that. And I gotta say, it's impressive how he was able to experiment with so many styles, genres, instruments, everything. In less than a decade, Bowie went from his debut to Ziggy Stardust and later to this album, as well as many in between that sound nothing like the ones I just mentioned. And the way most of the times he mastered those styles and sounds, giving out excellent records, is simply mind-blowing. This one, I think it was really good. Not super crazy about it, but definitely a good Bowie album. I loved Worked on a Wing and Wildest in the Wind. Added both to my David Bowie playlist, and I want to give another listen to this record, pay more attention to the lyrics and the topics it deals with, cause they sound interesting. Another thing, I love the cover of it. For some reason, I can't really tell it cause I don't know it. Next one, Chemtrails Over the Country Club by Lana Del Rey. I was looking for a calm, nice record to relax and vibe to, and I couldn't have gotten a better one than this one. An excellent choice if you just want to chill and have a nice listen at night. It shouldn't be a surprise that this record has great production cause Jack Antonoff is in charge of it, but it does. Actually, a pretty good one. A song I think that really shows that is Dark But Just the Game. That's not an easy song to mix. If you don't know what you're doing, it can mess everything up. The fact that every vocal line, instrument and arrangement is clear is impressive for me. I think that song is a masterclass on mixing. Another huge aspect of the record are the vocals. They have personality, power, emotion. They're great. And the layers of harmonies that are added in some sections are so incredibly well done. In Let Me Love You Like a Woman, she does it a lot, in case you want to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, in Norman Effing Rockwell, her vocals were a little monotonous. Here, she really showed what she can do with her voice, and it really surprised me. It was worth the listen. And if you like Folklore by Taylor Swift, you should check this record because you'll love it. My favorite song was Dark But Just a Game. It could also be my favorite Lana song in general. We're getting to the end. Blonde by Frank Ocean. It took me a long time to listen to this record, but I wanted to actually listen to it and pay attention to what was going through my ears, because it's a record people praise a lot, and I didn't just want to give a casual listen to it. And I'm glad I did not, because this record was excellent. I've only given 2 listens to it, but I still need to give it a lot more, because there's so much I can enjoy from it. Every song has a lot to offer, and this is a long record, so I'll need to give it a couple more listens to get the full view of it. But for now I gotta say I loved it. Pretty much everything on it. Instrumentals on most of the songs are so beautiful, so nice to the ear. Frank's performances are so good. At first I didn't like the effect he uses in the voice of Nike's and some other songs, but I've started to like it. The interludes, they're great. The Facebook story one, for example, is hilarious, but makes you feel sad for the guy. I love how well executed those interludes are, cause when an album has good interludes, it adds so much to the experience of listening to it. In general, I think listening to this album was an excellent experience, one I recommend, cause yeah, this album is really good. My favorite song on it was Pink Plus White. Now as I said, this month I listened to many albums, and I tried to select the ones I had something of value to say about. But now, the ones I didn't have much to say about. And I'll be doing this, or this, depending on how much I liked it. Excuse me for the rain, this is a rainy country, we can do anything about it. So, The Queen is Dead by The Smiths, Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino, Anti by Rihanna, California 37, Motomami and Del Mal Querer by Rosalía, Myron Silotto and Viva la Vida or Death and All His Friends by Coldplay, The Divine Feminine by Mac Miller, Forever Forever Ago by Bon Iver, Donda by Kanye West, and Medicine at Midnight by the Foo Fighters. Rest in peace Taylor Hawkins. And finally, the last album I listened to was Love for Sale by Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett. And it was an incredible listen. I've always appreciated Lady Gaga as a singer. Of course as an artist too, but I want to focus on her singing. Through the years we've seen her take many directions, from her early days of Poker Face to Shallow. Both are 2 examples of the different singing styles she can do. I think she's definitely proving at this point that she's quite a versatile singer. But I was not prepared for what I heard in this record. She performed fantastically. As I said, it was incredible. There's some moments where I got chills just from her voice. I think the one that stood out the most was her solo song on the record, Do I Love You? It was gorgeous. Her voice, the instruments, the emotions it makes you feel. It almost brought my tears out, I swear. By far my favorite one on the album. But this record was amazing. All the songs on it are performed in an excellent way. Most of them are beautiful. And the fact that Tony Bennett is 95 years old and sings in such a good way, it's crazy. Huge respect. Plus the duo him and Lady Gaga make couldn't be better. It's impressive. Impressive record, one of the best listens of the month. And that's about it. In March I listened to 28 albums. I hadn't listened to so many albums in a month since October last year. But this month I listened to amazing albums. I recommend you Circles, Parachutes. If you're a metal fan, please check Orchid. And I think you should definitely give a listen to Love for Sale and Blonde. Oh, and of course to my first album, Dying Woods, which is available everywhere now, but you'll have the Spotify link in the description for you to go check it. I really appreciate it if you do. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I didn't expect this video to be so long. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've been waiting for years, hoping there's still a chance that you'll come visiting someday. Don't care if the guns are rusty, the bullet's black, you can still pretend it's fun to live for a last